This video is brought to you by your local library. You know, that one that you abandoned and literally never think about. Yeah, okay, so Ben Affleck has fled the Batman movie that isn't called The Batman officially, it's just something they've kind of loosely labelled it. And by fled, I mean he's still on board as producer and writer, well, one of them, and star, but he'll be handing over the reins to a different director. Now, my immediate reaction is, well, that all sounds bad. That's not to say it'll be a terrible movie, but I do think it speaks to some of the wider problems we've been hearing about over at Warner Brothers and DC. So in addition to giving away a loot crate at the end of this, I want to cover some of the background in terms of some of the missteps the studio has made, how we got to this point where Ben Affleck is leaving, and also peek ahead into the future of the series and how this movie could absolutely still be salvaged. Okay, so it's weird. The reaction that a lot of people had to Ben Affleck leaving was kinda, yeah, that's the sort of thing that keeps happening over at Warner Brothers. I mean, I don't know what kind of liquid they got in that water tower, but things have always been really weird. Maybe the Animaniacs have been peeing in it. I don't know. I mean, if you look back to 2014, Patty Jenkins left Wonder Woman, apparently due to her and the studio having vastly different opinions on how to go about the film, which also may or may not have involved Wonder Woman having a pet tiger or something. Then you only have to look at The Flash losing its second director very recently, and then inexplicably, the whole thing is getting a page one script rewrite, despite the duo behind the Lego movie and the Jump Street movies having written the first incarnation. This, by the way, is a film that is due out next March and began filming in January. And by that I mean, that clearly didn't happen as planned, and there's a snowball's chance in snow? Wait, hang on, I just gotta swap this. No, that's still quite cold. Again, I feel like a snowball would be alright there. Fine, that'll do. A snowball's chance in a shoe store. And despite Warner Brothers kicking goals with multiple other franchises, including Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and the Dolphin Tale films, they've seemed to always struggle with comic book franchises, with some exceptions. We had the Dead in the Water Superman Lives movie from the 90s, the debacle that became that run of Batman movies, a version of Batman v Superman from the early 2000s that was scrapped, which I actually have an animation of on my channel. If you want to check it out, I'll link it below. J.J. Abrams' Superman Flyby, Catwoman, Green Lantern, George Miller's Justice League that got canned at the very last minute, a Green Arrow film, and I guess you could include the way this franchise continues to stumble about like a person slipping on a melted snowball in a shoe store. And that brings us to now. Ben Affleck departing Batman, something that I feel he has been hinting at for a while now, you know, just being very hot and cold about taking on the project. I just wish, you know, I had some kind of evidence to back up what I'm saying. June 22nd, 2016, Ben Affleck tells Collider, I think Warner Brothers has a date for it, although I don't know if I would necessarily be able to make that date because I don't have a script that's ready yet. So my timetable is, I'm not going to make a movie until there's a script that I think is good. I've been on the end of things when you make movies, when you have a script that's not good, and it doesn't pan out. September 30, 2016, Ben Affleck tells Screech or Slater or Kelly, I don't know, I didn't watch Saved by the Bell, that he will be directing.
And you're directing the next standalone Batman.
That's right, yeah, that's what they say.
And top secret, nothing.
October 30 of 2016. That's a hard voice to maintain. Affleck confirms that there is no Batman film happening, not yet, despite the rumoured tentative release date of October 2018 that Warner Brothers have apparently set.
The movie, there is no Batman movie happening yet. We're still trying to figure it out, so, you know, get the script and budget and all that stuff. And
of course, most famously, Ben Affleck went on Kimmel on January 10th of this year, less than a month ago, confirming that yes, he will be directing. Why isn't this playing? Alright. January 10, 2016!
I'm going to direct the next Batman. We're working on it. It's what everyone was like, where's Live by Night?
Right, yeah, right.
Where was Batman? I keep on getting, they're like, where's the Batman? I'm like, bro, I'm working. Give me a second.
That video is all well and good, but I prefer the one from around the same time where he isn't just playing up his frustration for the audience and he's just clearly sick of all this shit. January something! I don't remember the exact date!
Oh my god, it's such a pain in the ass. It's like every time I mention Batman, it gets this huge, you know, clickbait. When I was doing this movie, it took me 2 years to get it together, but nobody ever asked me, where's Live by Night? You know, they asked me, it's Batman, Batman, Batman.
And it's completely understandable, his response. Since he was announced as the new Batman in 2013, it's all anyone's been asking him. And there seems to have been this mounting pressure from Warner Brothers to get this film going. When he clearly hasn't been happy with the script, because if he was, well, we would have had a solid release date confirmed by him, and he wouldn't keep saying, hey, I don't really like the script. Please don't make me do this. I'm so sad. This is even reflected in his statement upon leaving the project, where he mentions that it became clear that he can't do both jobs to the level they require, which to me says the expectations he put on himself and those which Warner Brothers had of him did not align. Also, I don't doubt that this sudden turnaround and departure is also a result of his latest directorial effort, Live by Night. In addition to no one wanting to ask him about this passion project of his, I'd imagine he was feeling burnt by the critical and commercial response and would be reluctant to rush into another project for which he feels thoroughly unprepared. I do though have my doubts regarding his reluctance to both direct and star in this film. He's done that successfully before, in The Town, and that one where he's got the weird hair. Though to be fair, he has admitted that he's never worked on something like a Batman film before. Plus, if he's both directing and acting whilst wearing the biggest, dumbest, hottest and heaviest costume imaginable, yeah, well, frankly, that seems really difficult. And all the while, he has to maintain this physique that requires an insane amount of diet and rigorous exercise, as highlighted by this montage I've made. Get ready for it. Here it comes.
Fight till you drop. You never stop. You can't give up. You're the best in town. Listen to that sound. A little bit of all you got to never bring you down. You're the best around. Nothing. You're the best around. Nothing's gonna ever keep you down. You're the best.
All these funny little goings on at Warner Brothers, I genuinely think come down to, again, I've said this before, that nobody's really steering the ship. I mean, it's supposedly Jeff Johns, but despite this apparently being the case, things keep getting pushed back. Directors leave. Things are rewritten at the last minute. And Warner Brothers still seem to be unclear about what kind of universe they're supposedly building here. And I think the initial problem is they gave Zack Snyder free reign on Man of Steel, but more so Batman v Superman, because Christopher Nolan's not involved in that one, and because those films are diversive at best, the whole thing is struggling to find its feet. The problem is, you shouldn't let the foundations of your universe be built by a director whose strength is composing the coolest shot possible and that story seems secondary. Now, at the risk of sounding like one of those assholes who's all, if I was running things, this is what I'd do. But if I was running things, this is what I would do, or would have done. I would have thrown a bunch more money at Ben Affleck. Give him complete control on the Batman film. Let him work with whoever he wants, with a release date that he's allowed to set. Because otherwise, oh, I don't know, maybe he'll leave the project and then you're forced to scramble around for another director, which in turn means you not only won't meet his deadline, but your own. You know, if what I said then makes any sense. Which it does. A dog would understand that. I mean, a dog with working knowledge of the film industry, obviously. At least then you've got a singular vision from a director who values storytelling over spectacle. The most successful set of Batman films, arguably, but the Burton Schumacher series is just, it's all over the shop, was the work of a filmmaker who was able to build his own universe and determine, within reason, the time frame of release. I'd imagine that's why we got a 4-year gap between The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises. I'm still surprised though, in those 4 years, the only title that they could think of was adding the word Rises to the name of the previous film. Couldn't he have picked something else? That'd be like if Return of the Jedi was called The Empire Strikes Back. Or do they? Ewoks. But you know what? None of that will probably happen. I'd be more surprised if Ben Affleck came back to direct than if he just left the project entirely. Because he's been burnt by these big budget projects before that he didn't have creative control over. Like Batman v Superman, or Pearl Harbor, or Daredevil. But let's say he does leave, which I honestly believe he could. The answer might not be to reboot the series in its entirety. But if Wonder Woman is as piss poor as it's rumored by some to be, and Justice League turns out to be a knockoff Avengers movie that Warner Brothers forced Zack Snyder to make by holding a gun to his head and a gun to his balls, then yeah, maybe start over, or just Stop making these movies. But let's say those are good. Don't recast Bruce Wayne. Just kill him or retire him to Europe or whatever, as in a different character step into the role. It's been suggested over at Forbes that the reason Armie Hammer has been circling a project at DC is because he's going to be playing Dick Grayson or Nightwing. Then we can get a slightly younger character stepping into that comically muscular batsuit. I mean, it is, right? It's too big. It's like 60% padding. What the hell are they doing? But there has been a few amazing Dick Grayson is Batman stories. So just do one of those. And in a few years down the line, when the anger deep inside of Ben Affleck has simmered down and he forgets about the time they made him do a Turkish airline ad. Maybe then Warner Brothers could throw him, $2 million. Then he could cameo and, come in and mentor as Bruce Wayne or whatever. Again, though, that all depends if Wonder Woman and Justice League are good or not. Because if not, they should just burn the whole thing to the ground and start over in 5 years. Because no director is going to want to make your Batman movie set in a universe built upon a pile of burning garbage. Except probably McG. Great! Okay, let's do a giveaway. Here's the winner of last week's Loot Crate. Just private message me these details if you are this person, and it's all yours. And if you want to win next week's box, well, just leave any comment below. Maybe even on how you would course correct the next Batman film, or how you think the movie is going to turn out in general. Also, if you want, podcast. I have one. It's called The Weekly Planet, which is linked below. It's out every Monday, and we always talk things like movies and comics and TV shows. It's fine. I'm not really going to talk it up more than that. But thanks for watching this, though. I appreciate it. Take care.